We are on stage 2, drawing in perspective. We're going to be creating a coffee dispenser box, and it's going to put the info on the sides of the box. The first thing we need to do is open up the box file. Get that centered on your screen. You need a lot of room around there because of what we're going to be doing with this. And then you're going to click and select your perspective grid tool. That's going to pop up with this lovely thing. The idea of working with 2-point perspective is that the planes of an object, if you're standing on a street corner looking at a building, the front of the building looks to be the tallest point, and you know that the sides are supposed to be the same size, but they shrink as they go off in the distance. Like looking at a row of telephone poles, you will notice that as they move further away from you, they get shorter. It shows depth. So what we're going to do is try and simulate that. All of the lines on a plane move off towards that point in the distance. And that is what gives us the illusion of three-dimensional depth. We're going to start by picking up on the handles. The explanations of what all of this stuff is in your book. We're going to be starting by picking up the ground level handle and making this point on the sketch our ground level. So just grab this, you're going to move up, and you actually have to slide a little bit over to the left to line up on what they've got as the front, and slide that into place. Simple. That one was easy. And actually I want to nudge that over just a smidge because what I'm looking at should be running right straight through the center of the box, and I was off a little bit and it gets crazy moving this stuff. So the next thing I want to do is pick up and slide this right side out until the yellow line at the bottom matches the sketch line at the bottom of that base that the box is sitting on. So we're pulling that out and over. And you know what? If it's not quite right, we can still make adjustments to it. Now that sort of moved everything over for me, so I'm going to grab my baseline and I'm going to just shift that over a little bit so I'm recentered because I lost my center. And hey, guess what? When I did that, everything lined back up again. Now I'm going to do the same thing over on the left-hand side with the blue side. I'm going to take that and I'm just going to pull and drag that, and pretty much by the time I get it dragged out to where it's really centered and everything matches up, I'm putting my center right back where it should have been. So everything moves, and hey, this is all lined back up. There's where my corners meet. So I'm good on that. The next thing that I want to do is to shorten up the sides, and we're going to take the grid back so it lines up with the sides of the box. So not the sides of the pedestal that it's on, but the sides of the box. So I'm pulling that back and I'm lining that up, and I think I need to go just a little bit further because that didn't line up quite as good as I would like it to. So let me pull that in, and you know, the more you zoom in on this, the more accuracy you're going to have. Now, does it have to be exactly what it is, what it's showing on there? No, because this is a sketch. But I'm going to try and line everything up as close as I can get it. Same thing on this side. I'm going to bring that grid in so that it lines up on this side of the box. And then I have to work on the top to bring it down. Not too shabby. You can see it's not a great drawing, okay? I mean, it's pretty darn good, but it's not perfect, and we're trying to get this as close to being perfect as we can. So the next thing that we would like to do is try and get the grid size, because this is pretty tall. We want that grid to match. We want to get this first orange line to line up right along here. Okay, so to do that, we're going to be zooming in again. Makes it a whole lot easier to see where I'm going. But this line I need to be matching along there. You can see everything's off just a smidge. But let's go down and pull the size of that grid down so that one grid block high is the height of that little pedestal. So that's pretty good right along there. And I'm going to zoom out. Now remember the fact that this is not going to line up 100% perfect with the sketch. We just use that as a starting point. Now that we have our grid pretty well set up, we're going to go into View and down to Perspective Grid, and we're going to define grid, and all we're going to do is make that grid a little bit lighter. So let's change the opacity on the grid to 30% and select OK. Just kind of gets it off in the background a little bit. There's a really nice section on page 391 that talks about using the 1-point, 2-point, and 3-point perspective grid. And if you're in art or in design, it's a really good thing to take a good look at that. I think you'll find that very informative. Now let's save our file. Do a save as, and we're going to call it Coffee Producers, which I've already done. So I'm going to Next, we're going to pick up the rectangle tool and choose Default Fill and Stroke. We're going to go in our Layers panel and select the Artwork layer and make that the active layer. And in our widget, we're going to select the Right Grid Proxy to make it the active plane. So I'm going to zoom in on that right side so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to click near the corner in that sketch and drag right to create a shape that represents that front edge of the box platform. So I'm going right here from the intersect, I'm going up, and I'm going to follow that line out. Is it perfect on there? Probably not. There, but that matches pretty close to what we were looking for. Now I have a white fill. You're still going to see the grid. That's perfectly fine. Moving over to the left side, I need to click the left side of the proxy, and I'm going to make another rectangle that represents the left front edge of the box. So I'm going to click at the top on this one and drag over, matching the top, and pulling that out all the way and match the bottom. Get those to line up. And you can see it doesn't match that drawing. That's perfectly fine. Now we're going to work with the horizontal grid. And we're going to click out here on the anchor point. And let me undo that because I don't like exactly where I started from. So let me get my intersect. Still not right. I want to start exactly there and pull. There we go. Now I can pull out and I should be able to match my grid and come out. Okay, where'd it go? Ah, and I'm short. Let me back out and redraw. Start from that intersection and draw out and intersect. There, on the same anchor. There. So now I have my pedestal completed. In my layers panel, I'm going to, for right now, hide my sketch, and I'm going to hide my perspective grid by going to View, Perspective Grid, and Hide Grid. With my selection tool, I'm going to pick up that top shape, and I'm going to change the stroke weight to 0, so no stroke. And I'm going to pick up the color. Let me find my swatches, and I don't have my swatches panel open, so let me go to Window and get swatches. And I need to park those up here. Okay, should be right in there. And I'm going to pick up the color that is called CCR Brown 1. So let me actually change this to a listing. CCR Brown 1. Now if I need to move this or resize this, which it looks like I might have to, I'm going to have to use my perspective grid tool. So that's underneath my perspective tool, and with that I can go in now and do some resizing. So I can pick up a path, I can move this a little bit. I should be able to go in and change this. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. I want to enlarge that just a smidge. Let me check this corner. So I don't have it lining up exactly. So let me, moving with the arrow keys is too much. So I just need to take and slide this and move the corners just a little bit to get this to line up just a little better. Moving my anchor point. It's going to stick with this grid, so I have a lot more control over it. So here I've pulled that out too far. There. And now I think I'm happier with the way that's lining up. I can now go back into View to Perspective Grid, and I can hide my grid again. And then I'm going to use my selection tool to pick up the sides and change the left side to a stroke of 0. And I'm going to make my fill. Let's go in here, and I want the CCR Brown 3 on the left, and picking up the right side, the same thing to a stroke. Let me take my fill up. Stroke is none. Fill is going to be CCR Brown 2. And again, now that I've gotten rid of my stroke, I can see that I've got a little bit of a gap there that I want to change. So let me zoom in here, move around a little bit, and let me pick up my perspective. There it is, perspective selection tool, and I can pull this side over and match that up better. And I'm much happier with that. Let me click off to deselect. I'm much happier with the way that looks. In fact, this side now is a hair too long. So let me go in and pull that back and line that up better. There. I think I'm pretty good with that one. I'm going to re-show my perspective grid, and I'm going to go back into layers and turn my sketch back on, and I'm going to save at this point.